from an old collection called New Sounds at the Roosevelt Hotel. Larry Elgart's band with an arrangement by tenor saxophonist Al Cohn on a theme very simply titled Let My People Swing. On the other end of the line, out of the East Coast, not too far from the Hotel Roosevelt, I think, Larry Elgart. Welcome in.
Thank you, Leigh. No, I'm not too far from the Hotel Roosevelt. We're about 20 blocks away.
At one time, you succeeded Guy Lombardo on that scene, didn't you?
When we went into the Hotel Roosevelt, I think Lombardo had been holding forth for 35 years, and we were the first change in that policy. And actually, it was a lot of fun for me because the band was great, and it was nice to have a home. I think we were there for about 6 or 7 weeks. But there were certain drawbacks. There were a lot of people who were Lombardo fans, and, you know, the Lombardo band's certainly quite different from our band, and they didn't understand what swing was, really. They understood that the kind of rhythm that he played, double pianos and all of that, tinkling exactly what we don't do. As a matter of fact, up to this point, we really never used the piano in the rhythm section. And so people who were used to the Lombardo band found that kind of strange. But it was a wonderful room, bright, nice. The band was great, and we were on I enjoyed it very, very much.
How did you win the management over that period of time and the listeners and dancers?
Well, actually, what happened, being in a spot in New York City, a lot of people turn out that you're not even aware are fans, and they keep coming back. There were a lot of people in TV and radio who used to come in there almost nightly. And, of course, there were a lot of people that didn't like it, and they didn't come back again. They were kind of disappointed because they had heard that Lombardo sound in there for so long. Yeah, we still there?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Well, I don't want you to go away because I think about your career because you seem to have started at the age of 17, roughly, and you had been on the road with people like Tommy Dorsey, Woody Herman, Bobby Byrne, and that reminds me, we have listeners in Michigan. Bobby Byrne originally came from Detroit where his father taught music in one of the...
That's correct.
And he was a marvelous trombonist, little known, I guess, these days, or almost undiscovered.
Well, quite a brilliant guy.
And during the time, you also played with Woody Herman's first herd, didn't you?
Correct.
Around what years?
The time that I joined Woody's band, I have to remember, was, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I remember the band very definitely because that was exactly the time that first herd was formed. Chubby Jackson was the catalyst there, and he brought in Davy Tuff, and I remember that Skippy DeSere was on the band. Flip Phillips joined the band at the same time, and I think the fact that Flip, who's a great jazz player, but actually really didn't read, was part of the thing that motivated that sensational band into playing a lot of head things, or mostly head things, and that's really a great groove.
And you're part of the teamwork. Your instrument and your section.
Mm-hmm.
Was
right. That's part of the identity of the band because I get that question asked in many different forms. Like, is there some particular saxophone voicing that gives the identity of the sound of the saxophones, and that's really not true. I mean, we do a lot of things that are open voicings, closed voicings, even a lot of unisons. Unisons were a thing that we did an awful lot of. That I like the sound, the solidity of a whole, even a whole band doing unison. You know, it just gives a particularly heavy, solid sound.
Well, I don't know that I was asking that question, but I'm glad you
It was
pointed
a
that
good answer,
out.
though.
Marvelous answer. What was the question? You know, it's been a long time since we've talked. I think it was around 1952. And dimly going back into the past, at the Palm, just down from the Apollo.
That was right in the beginning.
Well, it's really nice to meet you again and establish this contact, because I know you have a date with us in this part of the country at the Ordway Theater.
Right.
On Sunday, January 17th.
And I'm looking forward to that very, very much.
And it's a matinee at 2.
Correct.
Well, before you go,
Okay, I'm not going.
you spent some time with Tommy Dorsey, with Woody Herman,
Right.
and they are rather remarkable leaders in memory.
Mhm.
What was it like working for Tommy Dorsey?
Tommy Dorsey was an interesting, wonderful musician, and had a strange reputation, but you couldn't prove it by me. I mean, his reputation was that he was a real master, and actually, Tommy was a lovely guy as long as you did what you're supposed to do. There was no problem with Tommy whatever. Uh, some guys had problems with him, guys that were a little far out. He didn't want any monkey business. He wanted to just play. And Tommy was the kind of a guy that could walk over and play your part for you. That's what he wanted to hear, and he could play it for you, you know. And I enjoyed my relationship with him very much. Woody Herman was a totally different kind of a guy, a wonderful fella, but he gave you a lot more freedom. Tommy Dorsey had a very definite concept. You know, you spoke about Bobby Byrne before, who was a wonderful musician, and I played a long time with him, and the most interesting part about the Bobby Byrne experience was after he went into the Army, Jack Jenney took over his band. And Jack
Another
Jenney
marvelous,
was a marvelous
player.
trombone player, not at all like Bobby Byrne, marvelous in a different sort of a fashion. He was really just an exquisite jazz soloist and a very shy individual. He came from that whole school of Billy Butterfield and musicians of that particular ilk. Played wonderful. Not too many people know him, and I'm surprised when I talk to people who are fine jazz trombonists and never heard of him. But basically, they hadn't heard of Jack Jenney because there wasn't that much of him on record. Most people only think of Jack Jenney when they think of that terrific trombone solo he did with Artie Shaw on Stardust. But that was the thing he was best known for. But he just played up a storm. He was something really unique.
Well, there was one more band leader that you were associated with, at least one more, and I'm thinking of Charlie Spivak because he had some sort of roots in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area.
Did he?
As
I
a
knew,
member of his
Charlie
family.
from Connecticut.
Yes, and a member of his family, I think, was a part of this community.
Really? I didn't know that.
And he was a fine trumpet player.
He had a marvelous sound. He had a marvelous sound, and he was a very sweet individual. Sensitive guy.
Well, as you move your band along, what's the psychology that you use to keep some 12 to 18 players on the road?
Well, I think that the most attractive part of the band is the fact that we really play a very wide range of music, from jazz players like Al Cohn to Dick Hyman to Bill Finnegan. Some of the best writers. Bobby Brookmeyer wrote things for me back in the 50s, and John Murtaugh, a fellow who's written an awful lot of stuff for me lately. And the reason that you do go with an arranger is that you develop a rapport. And Cy Johnson, who's done a lot of things for Basine, for Joe Williams, and does a lot of things for vocalists. He's a very, very versatile, hip guy. He's also a piano player. And a lot of the things that I've added to our show, see, back in the days when we spoke before, the band was primarily a dance band, and that's fine, and that's what I've done most of my life. But after the advent of Hooked on Swing, we started playing concerts. And we started playing a lot of concerts, and I would say that, like the Ordway, more of our jobs are concertizing than just dance jobs. And another wonderful part of that is that I've also done, and I do, symphony appearances. I just go, and we've had Hooked on Swing made into full-size orchestrations, and that's a real kick. That's really very, very interesting to go. I just take my saxophone and take my arrangements, and in a certain part of the program is a pop version, you know, the symphony pops, and you do anywhere from 8 to 10 tunes, and that's just part of the program. But it's wonderful. The reason that I enjoy doing concerts and I enjoy doing symphonies, so much is the fact that you're playing in these wonderful acoustical environments, as opposed to the old days when you played in ballrooms and you played conventions and so forth, and acoustics were so spotty. But to be on the stage and to be in a good setting, it's just a kick for me particularly, because I've always been interested in recording and interested in the effects of playing when you can hear yourself well. You know, that's very nice. And also another aspect of concerts is the fact that the people are there. They're sitting and they're listening. So it gives you an opportunity to play kind of a wide range of material to make a concert more interesting, and not just be static like it would be if you were at a dance. Though you know as well as I do that many times at dances there are a group of people that just hang around right in front and don't dance and just listen, try to get a good vantage point so that they can hear very well.
Memories of the old days of ballrooms and
Right.
hotels.
That was the exciting part there, but it's not always like that. Sometimes people are dancing and conversation, and it's a lot more fun for me to play and for the musicians to play when the audience is just sort of sitting still and listening.
Well, that really is the viewpoint of the 80s. Mm-hmm. Larry Elgart, thanks very much for establishing contact once again, and we look to Sunday, January 17th at 2 p.m., Ordway Theater in St. Paul, for the Larry Elgart Hooked on Swing concert.
Right.
Thanks so much for taking time to talk with us.
Pleasure, Leigh. Thank you very much.